Hey guys, welcome to the prop shop, where I'm going to show you how you can turn a roll of foam like this. You can grab one of these at Michaels and turn it into Lostvayne from 7 Deadly Sins. I'm going to show you how I did this right in my workshop in my backyard. Let's get to it.
Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe to my videos for all my future builds. Alright, so for starters, we're going to do 3 layers of 10mm EVA craft foam, kind of cut into basic rectangles so we can glue them all together. Now, we're also going to stick a wooden dowel through the middle of this, so you can look cool at a con, use it anywhere else, or just kind of annoy your brother or sister.
How do you put a wooden stick in the middle if it has holes in it? Thank you, nerdy Adam. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of wood, go right up the handle, and we're going to offset it a little bit, because we don't want this to be a floppy piece of foam. We're going to offset it and let it shoot right up the back, so it's going to be nice and sturdy. But in order to do that, we're going to have to make some modification to a wooden dowel. So let me show you how I did that.
So what we're going to use attached to our drill is going to be the spade bits. Now we're going to use a 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch. There are probably better tools you can use to do this to actually drill the holes, but these are just the ones I have available. The Forstner bit that I do have is not big enough, so I don't have different sizes in that either. So I'm just going to go ahead and use these ones, and I'm going to make it work.
Alright, so what we came up with after we drilled all our holes is we have our handle piece right here, which has got a nice big hole in it. That means we can take our other piece, stick it right in there. Now, for the actual sword, I drilled the holes all the way through. For this one, I didn't. I think it would have been better of me to not drill all the way through, just so I can actually have some support and everything. You can shoot a screw in the one side if you would like to. I don't recommend it, but another option you can do to kind of feel a little bit more safe for yourself. Now, before you put it in there, put a bunch of wood glue in here. You could stick it in there and let it dry overnight. Now, I used Type Bond original wood glue. I don't know, says professional strength, so hey, I'm a professional. What can I say? After that, you can take the smaller of the wooden dowel, stick it into the other hole that we had drilled out as well, and then after that, take it, put some wood glue on it, stick it in there, and there you have it. Now you can just imagine the circles going right up or right down the center of the blade. Now this is not to scale, I just kind of cut these pieces just so I can show you how I figured it all out. But go ahead, use the wood glue, give it plenty of time to set. If you leave it out overnight, it'll be fine. Come the next morning, unless you really put some force on it or you really want to break it, then you can. But if not, if you're just using it for a nice little cosplay sword or something like that, whatever application you want to use, it's going to work out just fine. Now if you split any of the wood, don't get too crazy frazzled about it. Get something you can either clamp it down with, or as you're putting it in, rest some books on it so everything will stay nice and closed, or wherever the crack or break is, and you'll be able to use it just fine. That wood glue is going to set everything up really nice. So now that we got that one all down, again, hole, boom, hole, there you go. And that's just a little way to avoid those little circles or any designs you got coming up in the middle. So let's get right back to the build now that we've explained this little part. Hey, looks like a little guy. On guard. Touche. Ah. Let's go. Alright, so I got the middle piece right here. What I did was I went and used our wooden dowel, or our wooden support. I placed it right on the middle piece and kind of traced where it's going to sit. And what we're going to do is use this as the middle piece, cut this out so it has a nice spot to lay, glue one side on the top and then one side on the bottom, and that's going to give us the thickness that we're looking for. Also, it's going to be a lot easier to cut out all as one thing than try to cut out individual pieces and try to line them up as we go. They could cause misaligning and a lot of cleanup work that we don't want to do. Alright, so let's go ahead and do that right now. Let me show you.
Now the only thing I'm going to cut out right now is going to be the middle where the wooden dowel is supposed to go, in the middle of the blade. That's going to make it a lot easier to glue everything together. Now we're going to go ahead and glue both sides of it together where the bottom and the middle piece meet, using a hair dryer to kind of speed up the process just a little bit, because I'm a little impatient. So after we go ahead and stick that piece down, we can go ahead and put our wooden dowel straight in the middle. Now after that, fairly straightforward, got to put the top of our sandwich on. So more glue.
And there you have it, Lostvayne. Well, actually we got a little bit more work to do. So the next step is to put down our pattern on the top of our foam, cut it out so it can have this nice sword shape. After that, we're going to go ahead and punch in the holes and everything, and this thing's going to start to come together real quick. So let's get to that part right now.
Now the pattern is fairly straightforward. Just put it down, line it up with the bottom, and start tracing.
Now to help trim this down to size, I'm going to get rid of a lot of material here. I'm going to start, you can easily do this with a craft knife. Any craft knife that you have will work. I am going to move over to my scroll saw to get a lot of this material removed. Mostly because I have one and I can use it. Scroll saws will cut through foam pretty easily. It's handy if you have one, but if you don't, you can see a craft knife will do just fine. So let me go get that done first.
So where I have my camera placed is making me a little seasick, so I do apologize about that. So we're going to make this one real quick. Just use a scroll saw and cut out along the pattern that you have traced onto your foam.
Alright, now that everything's all cut out, it's looking pretty good. Actually, it looks like a sword now. We did kind of, or I did, I should say, kind of nick the back a little bit. You can see some of the wood here protruding a little bit, but that's okay. What we're going to do is take a layer of 2mm foam and just kind of lay it along the back. It's going to cover up all the crimes we made. Now, the next step is to punch out the holes right here, which you can do with a sharpened PVC pipe. Just kind of stick it on, twist it a little bit, and punch it all the way through. But what I'm going to do, since I have a couple power tools, not a bunch, but a little bit, I'm going to use our spade bit that we use to drill in our holes for the wooden dowel thingy. So, I'm going to go ahead, get those holes drilled out, and go on to the next step.
As always, make sure you're wearing protective gear and don't drill directly down into your mat, like I am. Do what I say, not what I do.
This doesn't look like a sword, it's not pointy. This is hard. How do you make it look like a sword? Okay, thanks again, lazy Adam. So, what we're going to do is this part of the sword is going to be the pointy edge. Obviously not the back part. So, I cut out a part of the pattern that's going to be the pointy edge, and we're just going to line it up, trace the line where it needs to go, put a reference point, I measure it somewhere in the middle so it's nice and even, and then kind of sand off as much material as we possibly can before we can move forward. Now, you can do this with a hand sander, or a palm sander, whatever you want to do. It's going to take a while. So, I'm going to resort to the big guns. I have my belt sander. This is going to remove a lot of material really quick, and I hope it turns out good. A lot sooner than using a hand sander, which would take quite a while. I'm busy, I don't have that kind of time. So let's get to sanding.
Before we start actually sanding, we're going to go ahead and put the marks down where we actually have to sand too. On the sides and right down the middle, so everything's nice and even. I'm going to go ahead and use the belt sander as kind of like sharpening a regular blade. Kind of makes me feel like an actual blacksmith sharpening a blade, or a foamsmith. Yeah, let's go with foamsmith.
Alright, so here's where we're at. Did a lot of sanding. As you can tell, I'm kind of covered in foam. But what I did do was I sanded all the edges, so now it actually has a sharp edge, starting to actually look like a sword. And I actually, off camera, I did the crossguard, or the suba, right here, because I wasn't 100% sure how I was going to do it. But what I did do was I used 4 layers of 10mm EVA craft foam as a tongue twister, and then I glued them all together, kind of stacked them all like that, and then I used the belt sander to kind of shape everything. Now, again, you can use a little hand sander right here. Kind of take a little bit, but it's well worth it. I happen to have the belt sander, like I said before, so that's what I'm going to use. I also went ahead and did the 2mm EVA craft foam all along the edge, so everything's all covered up and it looks perfect. So next thing we have to do is go and put all the ornate details that's going to be along the side of the, or the back side of the blade. After that, we can move on to sealing it finally. Now we're going to go ahead and do the heat sealing, we're going to go ahead and do the plasti-dip, and then the paint job. paint job is going to be fairly simple. It's going to be the gold on the back part and the silver on the blade part. At least I think that's what it actually is. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go through that whole process right now.
So I'm going to go ahead and lay half the pattern down on the back of the blade where the ornate details are supposed to go. I'm going to go ahead and use my small craft knife to go ahead and poke holes to leave an impression on the foam. Now this is going to put a pattern that I can trace with a marker, and then ultimately go ahead and retrace it with my wood burner. I mean, look at me go. I'm pretty good at this. After everything's all traced down too, I'm going to go ahead with my wood burner using my chisel tip. Seems to be the best way to get this done, and the fastest too. So, here we go. I did have to switch tips, however, when it came to the detail on the side of the crossguard, just to be a little bit more precise with my design work. After all that, heat sealing it is the last process we have to do before we can start painting everything. This is going to give it a lot more of a desirable texture of an actual sword.
Alright, with the handle all taped off, it's time to seal it up with some plasti-dip.
After 3 heavy coats of plasti-dip, then it's time for a painting montage.
It's time to use our favorite Plaid FX paints. Airbrush, silver on the back of the blade. After all that painting process is done, threw a clear coat over the whole thing to protect the entire paint job, and we have our final product right here. This is Lostvayne from 7 Deadly Sayings. Now, my favorite part about this whole sword is definitely the back artwork that goes on the back of the blade, and it looks really cool. There's a lot of ways I could have done it by cutting out a lot of the little pieces, sticking them on one by one, so it has more of a raised detail pattern. But what I did do with the wood burner, engraving everything, I think worked out so much better. You also have the design right here in the middle of the sword. The one thing I did leave out was the dragon head at the very bottom. Every time I tried to do it on some practice sheets of foam, kind of looked like a chicken, not a dragon, so I was just going to kind of leave that one out. I also went ahead and wrapped the handle and some paracord. Now I am going to leave a link in the description where you can learn to actually wrap it in like a samurai pattern or whatever. But I didn't do that. It was really difficult, really time consuming, and this works just well for me. So that's going to bring it to the end of the video for me, guys. You can go on my Etsy shop and grab one of these for yourself. I will be selling these as well. Or you can just go ahead and make one yourself, follow along. But that's it for me, guys. Don't stop making things, and I'll see you on the next build.